Every big success starts with a small, difficult beginning. Today, I want to tell you a story about a boy named Daniel. This is not a true story about one real person, but it is true for millions of people around the world. Listen carefully. Try to understand the meaning of the story, and also learn some new English words along the way. Let's begin. Daniel was born in a small town, in a small house next to a river. His family did not have much money. His father repaired shoes for a living. Every morning, his father woke up before the sun and walked to a tiny shop in the market. He sat there all day, fixing broken shoes for other people. While his own shoes had holes in them, Daniel's mother worked too. She cleaned houses for wealthy families in the town. She left early and came home late, tired, with sore hands and a tired back. But every night, no matter how tired she was, she sat with Daniel and helped him with his schoolwork. Education, she always said, is the one thing nobody can take away from you. Daniel did not fully understand these words when he was young. He was more interested in playing football with his friends by the river, but he never forgot them. The family lived in 2 small rooms. There was no extra space, no extra money, and often not enough food. Daniel remembers going to school with an empty stomach more than once. He remembers wearing shoes that were too small, shoes his father had repaired many, many times. Other children at school had new bags, new pencils, new shoes. Daniel had none of these things. Some of the children laughed at him. They called him the shoe boy because everyone knew his father was a simple shoe repairman. At first, these words hurt him deeply. He would come home and sit quietly, not speaking to anyone. His mother noticed this sadness in her son's eyes. One evening, she sat next to him and asked, "What is wrong, Daniel?" He didn't want to tell her at first. He didn't want to make her sad, too. But finally, the words came out. "They laugh at me, Mama. They say we are poor. They say Papa is nobody." His mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said something Daniel would remember for the rest of his life. Being poor is not something to be ashamed of. But staying poor, when you have the power to change your life, that is a choice. Your father and I did not have many chances in our lives. But you, Daniel, you have something we never had. Time and a mind that can learn. Don't waste it feeling sorry for yourself. Use it. Years passed. Daniel grew older. He worked hard in school, even when it was difficult, even when other children mocked him. Slowly, something began to change. His grades improved. Teachers began to notice him. One teacher, Mr. Whitman, saw something special in Daniel. Not just intelligence, but determination. "You have a strong mind, Daniel," Mr. Whitman told him one day after class. "But a strong mind alone is not enough. You need discipline. You need a plan." Mr. Whitman began giving Daniel extra books to read after school. At first, Daniel didn't understand why a teacher would spend extra time on a poor student like him. But Mr. Whitman explained, "I don't see a poor student. I see a student with potential. Potential is worth more than money." By the time Daniel finished high school, he had one dream: to go to university and study business. He wanted to build something, a company, a future, a different life for his parents. But there was a problem. University was expensive. His family had no savings. When Daniel told his father about his dream, his father sat quietly for a long time, looking at household, worn hands. "Son," he finally said, "I cannot give you money for university. I wish I could. But I can give you my blessing, and I can give you my belief that you will find a way." That night, Daniel could not sleep. He felt the weight of an impossible decision. How could he go to university with no money? Should he simply accept his life as it was, working in the market like his father, repairing shoes forever? But then he remembered his mother's words. Staying poor when you have the power to change is a choice. He decided he would find a way. He didn't know how yet, but he decided. Daniel applied for a scholarship at the university in the capital city. He studied for weeks for the entrance exam, staying up late every night after helping his father in the shop. He memorized formulas. He practiced essays. He truly believed that this scholarship would change his life. The day the results came, Daniel walked to the university office with his heart pounding. He looked at the list of names on the wall. His name was not there. He had failed. Daniel stood in front of that wall for a long time. He felt something break inside him, not just disappointment, but something deeper, shame, hopelessness. He walked home slowly, not wanting to face his parents, not wanting to say the words out loud. I failed. When he finally told his mother, she did not scold him. She did not say, I told you so. She simply held him and said, this is not the end of your story, Daniel. This is only the first page. For weeks after this, Daniel felt lost. He began to doubt himself. Maybe the other children at school were right. Maybe he really was just the shoe boy, destined to repair shoes for the rest of his life, just like his father. He almost gave up completely. But one evening, while sitting by the river where he used to play as a child, Daniel thought about something Mr. Whitman had once told him. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Every person who has ever built something great has failed many, many times before they succeeded. Daniel realized something important that evening. He had only tried once. One failure did not mean the end. It only meant he needed to try again, smarter, harder, and with more determination. The next morning, Daniel woke up before sunrise, just like his father always did. He walked to his father's shop, sat down beside him, and watched him work for a while. Without saying anything, he watched his father's hands move quickly and carefully, fixing a torn shoe with practiced skill. Papa, Daniel finally said, how many shoes have you repaired in your life? His father laughed softly. I have never counted. Thousands, maybe. Why do you ask? His father nodded slowly, understanding where his son's question was leading. When I was a boy learning this work from my own father, I ruined many pairs of shoes. I sewed crooked lines. I used the wrong glue. I made customers angry more than once, but each mistake taught me something. Now, look at my hands. They know this work better than my mind does. Daniel smiled for the first time in weeks. So a failure is just a lesson that hasn't finished teaching yet? Something like that, his father said, smiling back. That conversation changed something inside Daniel. He stopped seeing his failed exam as proof that he wasn't good enough. He started seeing it as information, a signal showing him exactly what he needed to improve. Daniel decided he would not depend only on a scholarship. He would work and study at the same time. He found a small job at a shop in the market, working long hours for very little money. After work, he studied by candlelight because his family could not always afford electricity. He applied to a smaller local college. Not his dream, but a start. He was accepted. It wasn't the grand university in the capital city he had dreamed of, but it was a door, a small door. And Daniel decided that a small door was still a door. During his first year of college, life was extremely difficult. Daniel worked in the mornings, studied in the afternoons, and worked again in the evenings. He slept only a few hours each night. Many times he wanted to quit. Many times exhaustion made him question everything. But he remembered his father's tired hands, working every day without complaint. He remembered his mother's words about education. He remembered the wall with the missing name, and how it had almost destroyed him, but didn't. Slowly, Daniel began to notice something about the local market where he worked. Many small shop owners, like his father, struggled to sell their products. They didn't understand how to reach more customers. They didn't understand pricing or marketing, or how to grow a small business into a bigger one. Daniel began studying this problem in his free time, not because a teacher told him to, but because he was genuinely curious. He started helping some of the shop owners for free, just to practice what he was learning in his business classes. One shop owner, who sold handmade bags, agreed to let Daniel help him. Daniel suggested new ways to display the products. He suggested small changes in pricing. He even suggested selling some products through new methods he had read about. The shop owner, a woman named Mrs. Reyes, was skeptical at first. I have been selling bags in this market for 15 years, she said. What can a college student teach me? Daniel didn't argue with her. Instead, he asked if he could rearrange just one small corner of her shop as a test. She agreed, mostly to prove him wrong. He moved her best products to eye level, where customers would see them immediately. He created small, simple signs explaining what made each bag special. The material, the craftsmanship, the story behind it. He suggested a small discount for customers who bought 2 items instead of 1. Within 2 months, that shop owner's sales had nearly doubled. Mrs. Reyes was amazed. She told her friends in the market. She told her family. She told anyone who would listen. "The shoe repairman's son," she said proudly, as if she had discovered him herself. "He understands business better than people who studied it 4 years." Word began to spread through the market, from one shop to another, the way news always travels in small communities, quickly and with excitement. More shop owners began asking Daniel for help. At first, he helped for free, simply to gain experience. But eventually, one shop owner insisted on paying him for his advice. This was the moment everything began to change. Daniel realized that he could build something of his own, not by waiting for someone to give him an opportunity, but by creating value for other people. He began working with more shop owners, offering practical advice on how to grow their small businesses. It was not easy. Many people did not trust a young man with no formal business experience. Some shop owners refused to listen to him. Some laughed at him, just as the children at school once had. "What does a boy like you know about business?" they would ask. But Daniel had learned something important from his earlier failure. Rejection was not a reason to stop. It was simply part of the process. He continued. Slowly, his reputation grew. He finished his college degree while continuing to help small business owners in his town. After graduation, instead of searching for a traditional job, Daniel made a bold decision. He would start his own small consulting business, helping local shop owners grow. His parents were worried. A steady job would be safer, his father said. But Daniel remembered his mother's words from years ago. "You have something one never had, time and a mind that can learn. Don't waste it." He decided to take the risk. The first 2 years of Daniel's business were extremely difficult. Some months he earned almost nothing. He had to borrow money from friends just to pay rent for a tiny office. There were nights he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. He remembers one particularly hard winter. He had no clients for nearly 2 months. His savings were completely gone. He sat in his small, cold office, staring at unpaid bills, wondering if he should give up and find a regular job instead. That night, he called his mother. He told her everything, the fear, the doubt, the exhaustion. He expected her to tell him it was okay to quit, to find something safer. Instead, she said something that stayed with him forever. "Daniel, do you remember the day you saw your name missing from that scholarship list? You thought that was the end, but it was only the beginning. This difficult moment right now, it is not the end either. It is simply another page in your story. Keep writing it." There was a long silence on the phone. Daniel could hear his mother breathing, waiting patiently, giving him space to think. "What if I fail again, Mama? What if this time it really is the end?" "Then you will fail," she said simply, "and you will learn, and you will try again. That is not the end of a life, Daniel. That is simply what living looks like for anyone who dares to try something difficult. The only real failure is the one where you stop trying." Daniel did not quit. He changed his approach. Instead of waiting for clients to come to him, he went out and offered free workshops in the market, teaching basic business skills to anyone. He wanted to learn. These workshops were not about making money immediately. They were about building trust and showing people what he could offer. Slowly, very slowly, his business began to grow. 1 client became 5, 5 became 20, 20 became 50. Daniel began hiring other young people from his town, people who, like him, had grown up with very little, but had talent and determination. One of his first employees was a young man named Farid, whose story was almost identical to Daniel's own. Farid had grown up helping his family sell vegetables at the market. He had never finished his formal education because his family needed him to work. But Farid understood people, understood how to talk to customers, and understood the market better than anyone Daniel had met. Many people questioned Daniel's decision to hire someone without a proper diploma. "You need educated people for a serious business," one of his early investors warned him. But Daniel remembered his own experience, how a teacher named Mr. Whitman had once looked past his poverty and seen his potential instead. He decided to do the same for Fareed. It was one of the best decisions Daniel ever made. Fareed became one of his most valuable employees, eventually leading an entire team of his own. Years later, Fareed would say, "Daniel didn't just give me a job. He gave me proof that where you come from doesn't decide where you can go." This became something of a philosophy for Daniel's growing company. Look for potential, not just paperwork. Give people a chance, the way people had once given him a chance. There were still difficult moments, of course. Business is never a straight line upward. There were clients who didn't pay on time. There were competitors who tried to take his customers. There was a year when an economic downturn hit the entire region, and many small businesses, including some of his own clients, had to close their doors. Daniel had to make painful decisions during that time, including reducing his own team temporarily. But each time a new difficulty appeared, Daniel remembered the lessons of his past. Failure is information, not a final verdict. Small steps, repeated consistently, eventually become a mountain of progress, and the people who believe in you are worth holding on to, just as he had held on to his mother's words during the darkest nights. 10 years after standing in front of that wall, seeing his name missing from the scholarship list, Daniel's small consulting business had grown into a company with dozens of employees. He worked not just with small shop owners in his hometown, but with businesses across the entire region. He never forgot where he came from. He built a scholarship program, not a large, famous one, but a meaningful one, to help other young people from poor families get an education, the very thing that had once seemed impossible for him. He bought his parents a proper house, not a big, luxurious mansion, but a warm, comfortable home with enough space, enough food, and enough light. He bought his father new shoes, good, strong shoes that would never need repairing. His father cried when he received them, not because they were expensive shoes, but because of what they represented, a life of hard work, finally rewarded. Daniel often returns to that same market where he grew up. He walks past the small shop where his father used to repair shoes. Sometimes young people recognize him and ask for advice. He always tells them the same thing his mother once told him. Being poor is not something to be ashamed of, but staying poor when you have the power to change your life is a choice. Daniel's story teaches us several important lessons. Let's go through them slowly because each one is worth remembering. First, your beginning does not decide your ending. Where you start in life, your family's money, your neighborhood, your first opportunities, these things matter, but they do not determine your future. Many successful people started with nothing. They started in small houses with empty stomachs, with parents who worked impossibly hard just to survive. Your starting point is simply that, a starting point. It is not a prediction of where you will finish. Second, failure is not the end of the story. Daniel failed his first scholarship exam. He faced rejection many times when he started his business, from shop owners who didn't trust him, from investors who doubted his choices, from clients who didn't pay him fairly. But each failure taught him something new. Each failure made him stronger and smarter for the next attempt. Think of failure not as a locked door, but as a map showing you which paths do not work, so that eventually you find the path that does. Third, small steps matter. Daniel didn't go from being a poor shoe repairman's son to a successful businessman overnight. It happened slowly. One small client, one small success, one small lesson at a time. Mrs. Reyes and her bag shop. Then a few more shop owners. Then Fareed and a small team. Big success is usually built from many, many small steps, taken consistently, even when progress feels painfully slow. Fourth, the people who believe in you matter enormously. Daniel's mother, his father, and his teacher, Mr. Whitman, all believed in him when he struggled to believe in himself. Their words stayed with him through the hardest moments of his life. On the night he failed his exam, on the cold winter when his business had no clients, on every difficult day in between. If you are lucky enough to have people like this in your life, hold on to them tightly. And if you don't have them yet, remember that you can become that person for someone else. Fifth, give opportunity to potential, not just to paperwork. When Daniel hired Fareed, he looked past what was missing: a diploma, a formal education, and saw what was present: talent, understanding, and determination. This lesson applies both ways. People judge you only by what you lack. Remember that your true value is often invisible on paper. And if you are ever in a position to help others, look for their potential, not just their credentials. And finally, hard work combined with patience eventually creates opportunity. Daniel worked incredibly hard for many years before he saw real success. There was no magic moment, no lucky lottery ticket, no shortcut that skipped the difficult years. There was only years of consistent effort, small improvements repeated again and again, and the discipline to continue even when results were invisible. If you are watching this video today, and you feel like Daniel felt standing in front of that wall, disappointed, doubting yourself, wondering if your dreams are too big for someone like you, remember this. Every successful person you admire once stood exactly where you are standing now. They felt fear. They felt doubt. They failed, sometimes many times. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up is not talent, and it is not luck. It is the decision to keep going, one more day, one more attempt, one more small step forward. Your beginning does not decide your ending. Thank you for watching and learning English with us today. If this story motivated you, remember its lesson, and remember, your story is still being written. Vocabulary notes: repaired, repairing. To fix something that is broken, wealthy. Having a lot of money, rich, ashamed. Feeling embarrassed or guilty about something. Determination, a strong decision to keep trying and not give up potential. The ability to become successful in the future. Scholarship, money given to a student to help pay for education. Disappointment, the sad feeling when something doesn't happen as hoped. Exhaustion, extreme tiredness. Reputation, what people think and say about you. Consulting, giving expert advice to businesses or people. Luxurious, very comfortable and expensive. Consistent, doing something the same way, again and again, over time.